Welcome to 8 Minutes of College. I am your host, Renee Bailey, your holistic college coach. Today, I wanted to take a moment and commemorate the holiday that we just had in the United States, which was to celebrate the birth of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Obviously, a very important historic figure in U.S. history, but also a world history figure. So, one of the reasons why I admire him, as many do, is his stance on education and what he said about education. So I want to start off with a few quotes from Dr. King about education. And let's start off with this one first. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. The second quote I want to go ahead and give you guys is, education must enable one to sift and weigh evidence, to discern the true from the false, the real from the unreal, and the facts from the fiction. And lastly, I want to share this one. To save man from the morass of propaganda, in my opinion, is one of the chief aims of education. Education is incredibly important for all those reasons. It teaches you to, as Dr. King said, think critically, be able to identify what's true from what's false, make decisions better for yourself and your family. So that is why it is very difficult for somebody in my position who loves education to see it so set up with gatekeepers nowadays. And one of the biggest gatekeepers to education is finances. It's incredibly important to be able to pay for your education, but most people simply can't anymore. As I've said, and I'll say it again, there's over $1 trillion of educational debt in this country right now. And that is extremely sad. So why? Why is it that there are these barriers to getting your education in the US? Why is the system set up that way? And it is set up that way. It's specifically set up that way. Well, my opinion and my hunch on the whole situation is this. Who are the people that are most displaced out of the educational system when these gatekeepers are in place? People of color and low-income people of any ethnicity. And also, I would argue that you could say LGBTQ as well, because they are obviously less likely to be able to pursue their educational opportunities because of the social situations that they find themselves in, as far as, being displaced from their homes by their parents and things like that. And when I say that, what I mean is, like, they are more likely to be marginalized as a result of just their sexual orientation. But why is the system set up that way? Why is it that the system filters those particular people out? My hunch is that I experienced it as privilege. As a white woman, I had the privilege of having more resources. And I didn't have a whole lot of resources for myself either, by the way. So the fact that I had any resources at all was a privilege. And I think the educational system is set up with these gatekeepers because at one point in time, when race was even more segregated than it is now. The system was put in place to keep the people that were meant in the minds of the people who started this country to be their workers in place. Keep them uneducated. Keep them from obtaining upward mobility in society. Keep them from being able to provide for themselves on their own and buy property on their own, because they can finance their own things through their own hard work. And they will have no choice but to supplicate to you. It's not at all what a society should be based on. But if I were going to guess, and I think it's a pretty educated guess, that would be what I would say is the reason why we see the education system being having gatekeepers put in place with regard to financing and everything else. If tomorrow, the $1 trillion in debt that we have in student loans was just wiped clean, if tomorrow all the college tuition hikes were also tied to increases in the Pell Grant, for instance, Pell Grant was the increases in Pell Grant money was tied to the increase in tuition. If tomorrow we stop trying to judge students by one test score, and by their by in certain respects to their GPA, if we even the playing field out that way, the people who hold power in our country, the people who have the most wealth in our country, would have a lot to fear, because the people would then become educated. The people would then become less supplicant to them. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm open to hearing other opinions respectfully, but I feel like that might be something we need to work on in our educational system. And that, my dear friends, we're going to end on that note. That is your 8 minutes of college for today. I hope what I've shared kind of gives you an idea of why people are so mad about the education system in the US right now, and so very up in arms over everything that's going on around education and in politics in the US right now. Just a small taste of it. And I'd love to hear your feedback and comments. So please leave comments, follow me on social media, follow this podcast, reach out. I'm here. I want to hear all of the stories. I want to hear every opinion, every respectfully stated opinion. All right, love you guys. Thanks so much.